welcome back to Connect with Jonathan Mark. Now, this is a very important episode to me. I've been brought on to this case about 6 to 8 months ago, and I already did a reading for them at that time. They've reached out and they wanted help, any help. And I mean, their backs were against the wall. They really needed something. So I want to give you some context about the first reading, where we are now, and the case itself. So the first reading, they just needed something truly to keep the case moving forward or a new direction, which I provided and you will hear during this episode. But before we really get into this episode, I just want to give you a little background on this case. So on July 18th of 2022, Mike and Shannon Anderson found their son Kyle, Gavin Anderson, face down on the couch, deceased. The parents called 911 right away and they responded in about 10 minutes or so. The police questioned the parents, asking numerous times if Gavin fell a lot, if he drank, if he did drugs, and the answer was no. And no evidence was really collected except for Gavin's cell phone. The parents' autopsy request was denied by the head county medical examiner. The former DA now is the parents' attorney and believes that Gavin had a pattern of bruising on his body, suggesting that he was held down and suffocated. So as you guys know, and you guys are starting to get this, that during these readings and interviews and everything, we will be censoring names and you'll be hearing this sound. The reason is because we don't want to put anyone in jeopardy or the case in jeopardy. So guys, please welcome Mike and Shannon to the episode. Nice seeing you two and nice meeting you for the first time.
Yeah, nice to meet you. Thank you.
No, of course. Thank you guys for joining. And I wanted to have you guys on just because I've spoken to two of you before. And Shannon, you and I have been speaking like through email and, you know, we've Zoomed a few times. And I wanted to bring, you know, some awareness to your son's case. I want people to hear about it. I want everyone to know. So if you guys want to explain kind of what happened in your own words, I would love to hear what it is and like the update. And then we can talk a little bit more about when I read you the first time and things like that.
Well, our nightmare began on July 18th. We were at the bakery working and I was having a lot of anxiety. I hadn't talked to Gavin or texted him. I guess our last text was Friday. And I just told Mike, I said, something's wrong. We need to leave. So we left the bakery and headed to his apartment. And we got there. The door was locked. I'd called the landlord and the neighbor had the key. And we unlocked the door and Gavin was face down on his couch. And in our mind, we were just telling ourselves that he was asleep. I felt his calf and Mike felt his back and his arm. And it was obviously that he had passed away.
So sorry.
Sorry.
Yeah.
No, please. Like this is not easy to do at all. And I give all three of you most like respect that I can for even coming on and sharing this story because it's just not an easy thing to speak about of what happened. And before we even continue, I just want to say thank you, honestly, because for you to come on and to do this is very courageous. And I don't know many people that would do it, honestly. So I just want to say thank you. And you could take all the time you need. I know this was one of the worst days of your life and it's your son. So I can't even imagine.
Yeah, when we had went into Gavin's apartment, you know, the first thing that we noticed was his dog was, Liza was loose in the house. She greeted us, you know, right away. And, you know, as Shannon said, you know, Gavin, he was in a very unusual position on the couch, you know, with his face basically tucked down in the cushions. You know, it just wasn't a natural position that you would think somebody would lay down on the couch to go to sleep. And when we, you know, when I touched the back of his arm and his back to like try and wake him up. He was just very cold. We immediately knew that something was wrong, and we both just ran out of the apartment. We both, at the time, we wished we would have rolled him over. We are finding out now that it was a good thing that we didn't, because we ended up leaving him in a position that ended up getting pictures by the medical examiner that left him in the position that showed this awkward position that he was in, that we are finding out kind of disputes the head medical examiner's cause of death of positional asphyxia. So we are still working to try and get his cause of death changed on his death certificate so that we can get his case reclassified as a homicide. And so after we exited his apartment, I called 911 and requested, that they come to his apartment, and we were not allowed back in the apartment after that. And, they arrived, I don't know, within, I guess, less than 10 minutes. And we had family and friends that showed up after that. The police did not even rope off the scene. They did not rope off the apartment. We were finding out they did not even keep a log book of who was entering the apartment. Our current attorney is finding out a lot of information that the East Ridge Police Department did not do correctly.
Like procedurally, you mean, right?
Correct.
Typical protocol. They didn't they didn't ask questions to anybody there.
They asked repeatedly me a question. Did your son fall a lot? And I said no.
You know what's interesting is I remember when we first met and I first did the reading with the both of you, and I know you weren't there, which stinks a little bit. But I do remember, just because we've been communicating and everything, that when I did the reading, I know that it was classified as a suicide, but immediately when he came through, it was the opposite of that. And the thing that I was stressing a lot about, and I could be wrong, but there was someone else's hands on him, and he was a very clean cut kid. He wasn't someone who would go and do excessive anything when it came to drugs, alcohol, etc., and a family person on top of that. It's like a mixture of that. And I also remember too that there was a lot, and kind of what you just said, there was a lot of missteps that kind of happened. And also there was just a lot of screw ups is the word I want to use. There's a lot of screw ups. And I just remember sitting there being I'm going to help you guys out as much as I can because of everything that I just saw from the reading through your son coming through. I'm this is so not fair. The odds were stacked up against you guys. It kind of appeared when I was doing the reading and having him come through and show me all of that. And it really stuck with me. It just still has to this day. It's one of those where I'm this is not fair to a family. And also what I think is interesting too, in the middle of the reading, he kept showing me a very close friend that either lived above him, below him, or in the same apartment complex as him, that knew exactly kind of what happened and knew the people. Because also too, it appeared that the room or his apartment where he was, things were kind of placed back normally. It was clearly there was a disgruntled something, and then things were kind of maneuvered back to somewhat of a normal. Whether the room is a little messy, because my room is messy, my house is messy. It's sometimes I clean up, but sometimes I don't. And I just remember all of that, and I was sitting back, and I was just if there's any way I can help you guys, any way aside from the reading and aside from that, I'm going to. And I'm so thankful that you guys are here. So I know I spoke to Shannon a few times about updates, and I would love to hear some of them if you have any and you want to share some of these updates so everyone can hear, what's going on.
Currently, our attorney is trying to get the coroner's pictures, and he's been down to the coroner's now 5 times, and they're giving him the runaround. So at this point, we don't even know if there was pictures taken in the coroner's office. There was no autopsy on a 25-year-old healthy boy. I think everybody is just scrambling with the attorney, stirring up things. And of course, what you're doing once this is released, I know that this is going to be a turning point in Gavin's case. But it's just extremely difficult. Everybody that's involved in the case they don't care. It's such a big cover up. There has to be a bigger piece to the puzzle than what's going on. And we just can't figure it out. And I know that you will help us figure that out. But I texted the attorney last week and he said, it won't be long. And I don't know what that meant. I don't know if it meant that he's going to get pictures. He's trying to go on another angle since our statute of limitations is up of 12 months. As in that's about the most update we have.
It's interesting when you were talking, and Gavin has been coming through, and he keeps talking about location of where he works. Location. And he keeps saying that the people that are supposed to be helping are doing side things at this location, is what he keeps showing to me, whether it's a restaurant, a bar, a food type of place.
Are you seeing where he was, what the inside of the place that he's telling you?
Yeah, it kind of looks like a bar.
It's like a dive bar.
Yeah, he looks like a server, whether it's a bartender or like a server or something along the lines like that. But it also, I use this phrase at times for people. It's wrong place, wrong time, right? It's kind of like if you hear, see, or be a part of something that maybe he wasn't supposed to, be in the restaurant at that time, or maybe he wasn't supposed to go somewhere within the restaurant or bar at that time. That's kind of what I see, because what he's showing to me is but it also seems like there was bruises and marks on him, like if someone held him down. It doesn't look like he took his own life, because it looks like from what he's saying, he's putting hands in front of me. And when someone puts hands in front of me, typically what that means is like someone held you down, something with someone's hands. It's not like he did it to himself, is what I'm trying to say. And also too, he's showing this to me, and I'm so sorry. Your son is just very passionate and happy that all 3 of you are here. So I just don't want to not say hi to him, if I'm being honest. He keeps saying the person that lives either below or above him, a close friend, knows the most answers. And he's pointing at Shannon, you, saying that you've witnessed people in his life, whether it's parents or like the person actually, whether it's like him, is what he's saying. He's saying that you guys are fighting the good fight and don't stop no matter the peanut gallery that is happening. Because he's saying you're going through this like situation where there's a lot of people have their opinions and they don't know the full story. They think they know the story, but they don't know the full story. And he's saying ignore that, because he's saying people are going to be stopping by at your workplace, stopping by at your home. And he's saying like, don't let that dissuade you from what you're doing. And he's saying the attorney that you have finally right now, knows a corruption piece of like what is going on in a huge way. I mean, like not even a little bit, because he's pointing at me and telling, I don't know if all 3 of you met with someone who works in the like DA spot, but he's saying like, don't listen to that DA person, because he's saying that person was, I don't know if they were very nice or not. But like respectfully, I don't think they were like particularly warm and trying to be a helpful source, because he's saying that you guys, it's kind of like you're on the exact right path to get this kind of flipped, is what they're saying. But this attorney person is going to be a huge advocate for you guys and a huge help. also what he's bringing, which I wanted to ask you, which I'm unclear about, and I just want to ask you because he's saying this is going to be a turning point aside from some of the stuff I already said, but he keeps showing to me that, I don't know if this is the right phrase to use it, whether he wasn't examined properly when he went to get an autopsy, or if they kind of like, and I don't know if he was buried, cremated, etc., but it looks like they pushed something very fast along that doesn't typically happen. It just seems like the movement of like getting him from point A to point B with like examining autopsies, etc., was just like a lightning quick.
24 hours.
He was cremated.
Okay, yeah, because it seems like it was just very quick is what he's saying. And he's pointing, saying like that enough is going to raise questions is what he keeps saying. What he's also saying too, and I don't know if this has happened to any one of you guys, but he's saying, I can't tell if it's a J name or something where this person knows a lot, but it has also been very aggressive towards people within the family. Because that's what he keeps like showing to me. Like J name has been very nasty and aggressive is what he keeps saying. Because he's saying that, and he's showing to me that it's supposed to be, it's kind of like a, I guess everyone in your family knows this person. Like this doesn't seem like an unfamiliar person for the most part. And he keeps pointing at them, Shannon, you. I know it's like, I know you can't see who I'm pointing at. He keeps saying there's a boat situation. And he keeps talking about a boat situation. So he's just telling me to tell you that you, like the reason why he's doing all this is to let you know like you're on the right path and the path is going to be, is it going to be easy? I'm assuming it already has not been easy from what he's showing to me, honestly. But it also seems like this attorney is going to really be able to change the cause of death, it seems, or at least to put question marks or enough question marks on what's going on with your son's passing to make enough people raise an eyebrow, if that makes sense. Like enough people are going to raise an eyebrow and be like, this kind of doesn't like make sense. So that's why I was curious, because I remember the beginning, but like he's just very happy and adamant that you guys are here, but also not even so much doing this, it's just getting his story out there. Because he's saying that they kind of just like, obviously they move things along very fast, but if they're pushing things down and there's pushing, like, I'm using this as an example, like a case file down, right? Like anytime something gets any legs and they push it down to make it more difficult to proceed in a case, he's happy that you guys are pushing back now. He's saying he's happy you guys are pushing back. So I'm sorry for just doing that. You know, I just needed him to come through because he's a very good person. He's a family person. That's the one thing I see, is that he's so like happy that the three of you are like sitting here, because he's saying he would be with you guys. He's also talking about, and I know you mentioned your bakery. He keeps talking about that food, and he keeps talking about that. He used to I don't know if he either worked there or experimented with the food quite often. So, because he's very happy with that too. He's saying the attention that you're getting from it is good. He just wants you again, he keeps circling back to this. Don't let people that are driving by your home and your work give you an opinion or such. Really let it affect you, because he's saying it's making people turn to like a hermit, like want to stay in and not want to even do anything. And he's saying, nope, like push back. Because he's saying that that's how he would have been. He would have pushed back, it seems like if he saw something was just and needed, he's calling, like, I know I already said a family person, but he seems like morals, right? Very right or wrong. Like he seems like that type where it's like there's it's a white and a black, no gray area in between. Like you do the right thing or you don't. He's saying that he's very happy that you guys are pushing back, because he's saying he would have done the same. So and again, I do apologize for cutting you guys off. I just needed to get that, because he's just barging through like a wrecking ball. So can you, for like the listeners, just because I rambled off and I apologize, can you explain all this stuff just so people can have some understanding of it?
Yeah, so, all of that, is spot on. The pushback and everything to go along with the the speediness of his time at the medical examiners was less than 24 hours that he was there. We were actually given false information by the medical examiners that he had actually had an autopsy, and he was actually released to the funeral home in less than 24 hours. And since we had been lied to and were told that he had had an autopsy, I went ahead and signed off for him to be cremated. In less than 48 hours, he was cremated. And then we found out later that he did not have an autopsy, and toxicology had not even come back yet. And when toxicology come back and it was pretty much clean, he had basically had less than, a 0.049 blood alcohol content. I don't even remember
his THC level was a 0.87, which for somebody that smokes on a regular basis could have had nothing for 2 or 3 days and their level be that high. So he was not even remotely even having a tinkle of a buzz. And the police wrote it off as a drug overdose, and that's what they assumed, is that it was a drug overdose. And when the toxicology report came back, and it was blatantly obvious that that wasn't even in the hemisphere of what had happened, there was no body to go back and do any, they couldn't do an autopsy on a cremated body. So that's where the positional asphyxia cause of death came in.
And what is he talking about when he was showing to me about the hand marks, like bruising, that like he's saying came up later on, is what he keeps saying it wasn't like the initial.
Well, the police were asking Mike and Remy, like on the scene, if Gavin bruised easily, and they were like, no. And the photographs that the police took, you can see the bruising on the backs of his legs and on his back, which is what their attorney noticed in the photographs. We haven't looked at the photographs.
We've actually had 2 professional opinions. I'd hired a criminal attorney, and he had his associate step in and look with him, and they both agreed that this was a homicide, that hands were put on Gavin. Mm-hmm. And then we went to get another opinion, and this is the ex-DA. And Mike and I were just white-knuckling it at the table as he looked over the pictures at his chest so we wouldn't see it. And then he put the papers down, and he said, well, he's like, I'm 100% that somebody put hands on him. This is not a common. You have bruising of being dead, but then you have bruising of physical.
Mm-hmm. It wasn't post-mortem.
Yes. And he said, there's patterns on his body from where they held him down. And Mike and I just broke down because we knew that was the truth. We knew that that's what had happened. We knew several had done this. And regarding the comment about the boat, we were getting in the water, and the parents of one of the killers was
who we think is.
Of who we believe were in front of us. And I had told Mike that we were going to encounter them, but it was strange when I would see, because that's my anxiety, is running into somebody. That's what causes me, like you said, to become kind of like a hermit, because that's what I've become. I don't go out or do anything, but I would go out on the boat. And I told Mike, I'm just really anxious. I feel like we're just going to run into them any day. And it was like 10 feet from our boat that all of our eyes were on each other. And then I don't know, a month later, all of us were on the boat, and we saw them again on the water.
Oh my God.
And I didn't understand what I was seeing or feeling, other than the anxiety of, I don't want to interact with these people. But there was just like a line through it. It's not like we could walk to them. It was confusing on what I was seeing. And then it was water.
But validation that you just gave us for what you said about the water and that connection, Gavin knowing to validate that.
And the J, there is 2 J's.
One is the mom and one is the son. So I was like, well, is it?
And then there's a friend too that knows. So there's a triple J in there.
Who lived above him or below him or next to him? Because the person that...
The J name.
Because he literally keeps saying the person in the same... I don't know if it's like a condo or apartment complex or something. When someone knows something or like kind of like pushes someone to do something, they're just as guilty as if they put their hands on them, technically, in my opinion.
Right.
That's kind of what I see. It was like a whole thing. It's horrible is what I'm trying to say. Because it seems like they must have lived near each other, like on the same floor or something, or above, below, you know?
Yes. So the J name lived next door. The brother lived above. So Gavin was here. It was his brother and the J name.
Oh my God.
So the J name didn't necessarily do it, but knows who did it, what happened. And
there's a lot of stuff connected to him, like a lot. There's like a lot of things connected to him, like as far as like even the other person that lives over there, right? Mm-hmm. Aside from him, it also seems, and again, like this is like the thing that he keeps saying is like location, location, location. And he keeps saying that to me because it's the place of work really is not, because he keeps emphasizing that to me, saying like it's like, yeah, maybe it's a bar, restaurant, whatever, right? But what goes on behind the scenes of this bar or restaurant is not normal bar, restaurant like behaviors, I guess, for people that own it, work it, whatever. And it also seems like, without saying too much and like whatever, it's like corruption at its finest, right? It's kind of like if you have detectives or cops or whatever, or you male people, whatever, I'm using this as an example, that are being a part of like a larger drug scheme, right? It's like, you know, you're using places as a front, right? Like you're not going to be selling or doing stuff in your home most of the time. You want it in a place that's, I'm assuming, heavily populated or just like a place where it's not someone's home. And that's kind of what I see. It's just it's just a location of things is what he keeps saying. And like that's without, again, saying too much, because I don't want people to, because this is what's going to happen. People are going to look up your son and look up where he worked. And then, you know, it's going to be like a whole thing. So that's why I'm just trying to be like a little protective of that like side of it.
Yeah.
But is there anything else that is like on the horizon for this? Like I know you mentioned earlier that they're pretty close to getting this potentially the cause of death to be turned from essentially like an overdose to a homicide.
It was positional asphyxia.
Right.
So a lot of people were saying that Gavin either committed suicide or is a drug overdose, but the police were more drug overdose leaning. So getting it turned from positional asphyxia to a homicide will be the first humongous step.
Now, can you provide phone numbers for people? So if they have any information or an email that you guys have. So if there's anyone that wants to send an anonymous, if they know something, because so like that's the biggest part of this, aside from trying to give help and, you know, things. It's like if someone that's listening can just send something if they, you know anything, I would love for you guys to say it and then email it over so I could put it in the show notes for people when they're reading the description.
Mm-hmm. It's Mike made an email justice for Gavin Anderson and
gmail.com.
So justice for Gavin Anderson at gmail.com.
Okay.
If anybody could give us any tips, we would so appreciate it in any form, fashion, or just encouragement just to keep on going. Just it's really hard. It would have been a lot easier if he'd been in a car accident, but finding your kid dead and not knowing what happened to him and then finding out, somebody put hands on him. We just want closure. it's hard enough not having him, but just the torture of all of us going to bed at night, not knowing. It's been 28 months, and the PTSD is real.
I can't even imagine, honestly, and I'm hoping and praying that someone steps forward, even if it's a little piece of information. I hope everyone knows that goes a very long way. Like, even something that you may find small goes such a long way in like an investigation like this. And again, guys, if you have any additional information, please email justice for Gavin Anderson at gmail.com. I just want to say thank you for coming on and thank you for sharing your story. It means everything.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. You've been a blessing to our family, and we really appreciate it.
You have no idea.
Giving us a lot of
hope.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mike, Shannon, the Andersons, for coming on the show. You know, you guys are really brave and really strong for even sharing this story and wanting to get out there. We are a community and we've been so helpful to all these families that have been coming on. So if you want to continue to be helpful, please send an email to justiceforgavinanderson@gmail.com. Any tips, big, small, is so helpful. And guys, I just cannot believe the amount of questions I've been getting from you guys, like everything. So if you want to have your question answered on this show, all you have to do is rate and review the show. Send a screenshot, and you can either send a voice memo or you can just write it out, and you can send it to my Instagram at JonathanMarkMedium or an email it to me at connectjonathanmark@gmail.com. I will see you next week.